no matter how far Slovenians go, they come home sooner or later. So we say, dobrodošla doma, welcome home, Sunita Williams.
Thank you. Thank you. Of course it's good to be home because there's good food.
Yeah, among other things.
Among other things.
So as I said to Sunita and I said to you earlier, we will try to have a very cozy, familiar, easy conversation here. Sunita, we have people here from all over the world. So obviously Slovenia, but then also the States, Australia, Germany, the Netherlands, and so on and so forth. So people who do research and work in science, some of them at the beginning of their careers, some of them already with a very, very successful scientific background, but all very eager to meet you and to talk with you. And another thing, these drawings were made specially for you by children of Slovenian schools in Hungary, Italy and Austria and Croatia, so in the neighboring countries. We asked them to draw a boundless or borderless space, and that's what they came up with. So we have this very nice background for our talk. Everything okay?
Everything is great. So thank you so much for the invitation. I'm sorry everybody was here for a little bit because I was eating. So sorry. And we had an amazing meal. So, but I appreciate everyone's patience. I appreciate everyone taking the effort to come from all over the world to come here and have an interest in what we're doing in space, and just happy to share as much as I can.
I talked about the drawings. You already told us that when you were a little girl, you didn't dream about being an astronaut, which is usually the case with little girls and boys.
So, you know, it's interesting because I think there's some lucky people who have that dream when they're really little and then they achieve it. But I think for a lot of us, me included, the path is not always straight. It's a little bit curvy, lefty-righty, and sometimes you think you're going down a path and then something happens, which for me, I felt when I was younger, like in high school and college, maybe little failures along the way, but those failures or challenges opened up new doors, and I found other ways of having fun and finding interests in the world. I wanted to be a veterinarian, of course. My father was a doctor. Our father was a doctor. My sister's back there, and my mom always loved animals, just like everybody here. It seems like in Slovenia loves animals, so I wanted to do something in that regard. But ended up joining the military because I was looking for college that I could get into, for one thing, because that was difficult, and then two, how would I pay for it? And so I ended up joining the military, and that provided all sorts of opportunities. Jumped out of airplanes, learned how to scuba dive, and eventually became a pilot. And I think, like most people, you like figuring out how it works. So did a little bit of fixing helicopters with the maintenance people who were working on the helicopter, and I was suggested, why don't you go to test pilot school, because you have curiosity, wondering how this works. You know, don't just get in and fly, turn the key on and go. How does it actually work? And so test pilot school is the first time I ever had the idea that maybe being an astronaut would be sort of fun. So I applied.
Wow. So astronaut is your second job choice, really?
Second choice, yeah.
So if you don't make it as veterinarians, then maybe you can pursue an alternative career. Was it difficult to be a woman in science and technology? Was this decision to study science and not something else perceived with?
It's an interesting question. When I joined the military, so science and engineering, I think both of those fields in that time frame and before, obviously, was a little challenging for women, but one or two people in a classroom. In particular, at the Naval Academy, there's like 100 women and 1,000 men, so you're obviously going to have a class which is a little bit skewed when you're taking your courses, and so I suppose it felt a little bit weird. But also, one good thing about the military, one good thing about college, you're all in there together. Everybody starts from the same place, and you just put your head down and press through and don't really worry about that.
But did you ever feel out of place? I'm sorry, it's an intimate question.
Oh, no.
But
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think I would be lying if I didn't say at some points in time. Everybody who's a little different, maybe you're in a country which is not your own, you feel a little different, you feel a little out of place. It's sort of the same thing, but you learn how to make friends, you learn how to have common interests one way or another. Sometimes you make cookies for the rest of the people and then they like you, or whatever, some little way to, get to meet people and understand about people. So of course, yeah. And during my time in the military, we changed the rules. So women, when I started, were not allowed in combat, and now they are allowed in combat positions if you qualify. And so that allowed us to even integrate a little bit more. Obviously, some difficulties with that as well. In the astronaut office, it was a little bit better. Maybe about 30% of the astronauts are women. And This last class was like a little bit crazy. I don't know if anybody was paying attention. 10 astronauts selected, 6 of them women, 4 of them men. So you guys better get on it. There's a lot of smart women out there, which I think it makes sense, right? Because I think worldwide, these fields have sort of opened up and opened up and opened. The onesie-twosies in history, right? But now these fields have opened up more and more for women. So it is about time that we have men and women on equal par intellectually in the science fields and the engineering fields. And then, for the astronaut office and our job in particular, we have a lot of women who are very athletic also. And that's also over time as careers and opportunities have changed, it just makes sense. And so we pick the best person for the job. We don't really care if you're a man or a woman. We just want to have the list, see what your qualifications are, and we pick the best person for the job. Sometimes it's women.
Yeah, that's great. When you talk about athletic women, I just want to share with you that Sunita and her sister Dina as well, they went to see Lake Bled. Now, usually, we normal people, we go for a creme schnita, right? Something.
Oh, we did that too.
Okay. Eventually, but before that, they ran around the lake, and then they went swimming from the shore to the island and back, and they did it in 24 minutes, I think.
The swimming part.
The lake is very warm, 15 degrees, so it was very enjoyable. But yeah, you're very athletic. You said the difference between men and women and so on. They said that when you go into space, that's like a common place, and you look down at planet Earth, which is something that I think it cannot be transferred into words when you experience that then all the differences that we perceive on the planet as important somehow seem unimportant and void. Is this true?
Yeah, they melt away. All those differences melt away. I mean, there's some people say there's no borders, and I feel that way too. There are some obvious areas of demarcation because of ocean, river, or mountains, but that's really all you see. Most of the time, actually, you see ocean also. 71% of our planet is ocean. So any moment you look out the window, you're more than likely going to see some of the ocean, and then you're going to see the small amount of land where people live. And like, wow, those people on those little pieces of land, like everybody, I've said this before in other contexts, everybody, every animal, every plant that are on those little pieces of land. And obviously the fish, hopefully you don't know too well, like the sharks and stuff, but that are on all that water. That's everything. That's it. That's where we are. That's where all of us are. And so we do have obviously a number of countries working together on the International Space Station. Beside 4 separate projects based of those countries, we all work together. We all live together. We all share common meals. We all share customs and traditions. We try to share language as much as possible when we're up there. And we actually all speak, English is the primary language of the space station, but we all speak Russian as well. And it's hard to know a language if you didn't grow up there perfectly well, so we call it Runglish.
Runglish.
All of us sort of speak a little mixture of both, and our European friends have to learn probably 5 or 6 languages as well as Russian and English. Our Japanese friends have to learn Russian and English, so everybody is speaking Russian and English while we're up there, Runglish, and we try to just make it fill in for each other, because sometimes you don't know a word, particularly when you're talking about something that's like technical is fine, but when you're talking about something like emotional or about your family, sometimes it's hard to fill in those words, but you get it from the sense that when you're having the conversation and your other teammates can fill in for you.
Talking about customs, is it true you brought krajanska klobasa and samosa to space, or is this a myth? No, it's true.
It was true on my first flight. I had some time to prepare, for more time than my other 2 flights, particularly this last flight, to prepare to go. And so they were asking us what things would we like for food. We have standard menu, but you get a couple specialty bonus things. And my sister and my mom were very aggressive in helping me figure out what types of good ethnic foods to take with me. Samosas were a little bit questionable because they're flaky, so parts and pieces can fly all over the place. And so we got mini samosas, not the best in the world, but they were okay. But what was really good was the krajanska kielbasa. I got it from Cleveland, Ohio. There's a place there that we go all the time for years and years and years. We have them shipped. Mom has them shipped for Easter all the time. Osmond's, and he made special ones. They have to also. There was a big situation where you have to talk to the food lab, because we have people who make all of our food, and it can't go bad up in space, and they're very concerned about that. So not getting anybody sick. So they had to talk to the food lab. They had to talk about these sausages. He said, I smoked them. They're in the basement. You can have them there for 20 years. So don't worry. He especially cut them into little slices for us. And as soon as I opened them up one day, all my crew was there, because we like to share this, traditional ethnic foods with each other. And I had like 2 pieces, and all gone. Everybody's eating away. So that was a little unfortunate. I wanted to share for a little longer, but that's okay.
My last question, so people get ready, please, now. There are a lot of physicists in this room, so I really, I hope I will not embarrass myself, and I probably will.
I will.
But there's been a lot going on in physics, in astronomy in the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years. The Higgs boson, the gravitational waves. Do you think that there is a spike of interest in the general public and among young people towards space, towards physics, and on the other side of the coin, what do you think about all these theories about flat Earth? It's not flat, isn't it?
It's not flat.
You saw it.
I guarantee.
You can guarantee.
I can guarantee it. First time I actually went to, I've mentioned this once before too, a couple times before. Like the people who thought about it, without seeing it, and thought this is not flat. This is a planet. This is round. We orbit around the sun. And those were initially, I think, very much genius people who would come up with this. And they can't have any way to actually really, really see it. Prove it with some theories, prove it with motion of stars, prove it other ways, but not really physically with their eyeballs see it. You can't, even in an airplane when you're up at 35,000 feet, you can barely maybe see a little curve. Maybe when you're about 45,000 feet, we fly T-38s, our jets there, you can maybe see a little curve. You have to get higher than that to actually see that. So we're up at 250 miles, 400 kilometers, and you can see it. You can see that it is absolutely round. And I went on my space shuttle mission, went to the cockpit. I was on the downstairs on the mid deck doing a lot of arranging after we got to orbit, and the commander said, come up to the flight deck. And I flew up to the flight deck, was just chuckling because I was like, oh, I'm flying. This is so cool. But then you can actually see, the Earth is round. And for the first time I was like, I mean, they're right. All those people are right. And it's amazing. And not only they're right, that doesn't even matter. Look at how incredibly beautiful this planet is. Yeah, absolutely. It's round. So no flat earthers in this crowd, right? And if you're interested in science and space, this is the time. Technology is accelerating, has been accelerating so fast, faster and faster and faster with everything we do, which is allowing us to do more and more calculations, more and more proving of things. It's pretty incredible, allowing us to do not only better, software, because that's obvious, but also better manufacturing of hardware. So more advances in, additive production, 3D printing, in a lot of different types of metals to be able to do that, which is allowing us a lot lighter spacecraft, a lot more capable spacecraft. It's amazing. And not only that, like in welding as well, like how we put these things together, not only create them. So in the space business in the US it's amazing. It's ticking along. I mean, I could name off 5 or 6 companies, not to mention NASA, and that's happening essentially around the world, pieces and parts, at least for satellites. Other countries interested in launching people to space. I know the Indian side is working quite hard. I know Slovenia has been working hard on the satellite side as well. So it's all over, and it's a great time to do that. And going back to the other question that you asked, why, is because we're also, I think the biggest thing is to do this together. This is one of the greatest achievements, I think, of the International Space Station, was getting countries who don't generally work together to actually work together, share technology, share ideas, live together, trust each other.
You know that when we talk about space, is the instant we most often hear the use of the word mankind.
Yes.
Usually,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We usually talk about mankind when we talk about space exploration and so on. It unifies the.
Seems natural.
Yeah,
seems
natural.
like it should be. Yeah.
Okay, questions, my dear, especially young people, please. Just raise your hand. Stand up so we can see you. Just tell us where you work and what you do, so we can get to know each other as well.
Hi, I'm Thea. I work for a satellite operator in Germany. And my question would be, so you spend a lot of time in space. What would you say would be one instance, one moment, one experience you wish everyone on Earth would be able to share?
Oh boy, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a couple. I'm just going to talk to 2 of them quickly, but looking out the window is, like I mentioned already, because I've already sort of described it a little bit. Like, it is incredible. Like, at first you start to see, like, you start to look for places that you know. I mean, it's obvious, right? My mom and my sister were living in Cape Cod in Massachusetts. If you know this part of the world, it's very easy to see from space. It's a big, like, crooked head, neck like this. And so you're like, oh, we're coming up on New England. I want to see it. Or we're coming up on Italy's, which I know then Slovenia's right next door. And, I can see it. I can find it. And so you're usually trying to find home, which is awesome and fun. And sometimes it's cloudy and sometimes you can't see it. So then you might just hang out there for a minute in the window. And after a little while of being in space, you start looking at the planet more like a planet, right? You start seeing then, like, weather patterns or ice patterns, or watch it at night. You could get stuck in the window for 45 minutes of daytime and then 45 minutes of nighttime, and then the sun comes up and you're still watching. You're like, I have to get back to work. But it is just incredible to see, like, where populations are, where algae blooms are, where ice flows are, where glaciers are. That type of thing of just looking at our planet as a living and breathing thing is just incredible. But the one thing I really found on this mission, which I think was compelling to me, was I had a moment to, like, really concentrate on what I was doing. I wasn't distracted by daily life. Like, I wasn't thinking about, oh, I got to get some milk, I got to mow the lawn, I got to walk the dogs, like, while you're working. Like, I think we all do this, right? Like, what is on my checklist that I have to do before I wake up tomorrow, or as soon as I get up, I have to do this, 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 and this. I didn't have to do that. I got to just concentrate on what I was doing. And I figured this out because I wrote some journals back home. And when I reread those journals, I'm like, this is pretty good. I'm not that good of a writer. I'm not that artistic, but they're pretty good, and they're like full of like expression. And I think you get that you are allowed to have that much. There's much more capability in us when we just focus on what we need to focus on and don't get distracted by so much. I'm explaining a little bit more. I've mentioned this in some elementary schools too. I was like, just get away from all those. Give those little kids some time to just be kids and not deal with the world on their phones, on their computers, and other things like that. And I think we would be able to find a lot more in us.
Wow, great. Next question.
Okay, I see both of you.
Yeah, so I have a question. So in Slovenia,
Who are you?
Excuse me. I'm Gal. I study data science in Switzerland, but I am Master of Mathematics and Computer Science from here.
Don't ask me any hard questions.
Well, not. My question won't be theoretical at all. So in Slovenia, we have this expression, those who don't have it in their head have it in their legs. So it's sort of, those who are not very smart are very athletic, but in order to be in space, you gotta have both. So I'm interested in preparations for becoming an astronaut, how much of the time people devote preparing themselves physically and how much do they devote preparing themselves theoretically?
Oh, interesting.
Thank you, God.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. You know, it's not mandatory necessary to like go work out every day, right? I'll just give you that for the first moment to become an astronaut. But you know when you get up there, you're going to have to work out every day. So a lot of us in my colleagues do work out on a daily basis. I think it's part of a regiment or part of a regime. It's just part of natural life. For us, we just have to pass some tests, physical tests, and health, of course, before you fly. But nobody's like peering over you before you go to space. But when you go to space, it's mandatory. Or you are physically will suffer the consequences, right? Your bone density, your muscle mass, you know, even like your muscle of your heart, you know, all this will suffer if you don't take care of yourself in space, which means generally doing some type of loading, which we do with an advanced resistive exercise device, or running on the treadmill, and cardiovascular, riding the bike. So every day, everybody's doing that, at least two of those things for a couple hours, or else you're going to have problems when you get back. People have not worked out too much, and then they've had problems because they don't like it. So I would suggest you get to like it, you grow to like it here on Earth before you go. I think that's key. On the academic side, you know, when we're looking for people to become astronauts, we just want to make sure that people know how to learn. Sounds like very basic, right? But just like, can you ask questions? Can you take on new concepts? And it might not be in your field, your expertise. I'm a helicopter pilot. I was doing stem cell research. I don't understand every single thing. I'm the hands and the eyes of the PIs who are doing all of this amazing work. But I have to be conscientious of how they're running the experiment and listen to them to get their input of how to do something right so we don't mess up something that's very expensive that gets to space. And then secondly, I think almost more importantly, how to be an observer, right? That goes along with being able to learn and listen and take direction is also then be an observer of like, what am I seeing that you're not seeing? You know, you're not here, I'm here, so I owe it to you to make all of the observations. And sometimes it's better, I almost think, not to know what the expected answer is, because we're someplace that's a little bit different. And so the answer might not be expected, it might be something totally different. And so that's a value trait. So I guess I'm not really answering your question about specific, I'd say 50-50. 50-50 is probably, yeah.
Okay, here and then, yeah.
Okay, I'm Primož. I go to secondary grammar school, Obisk in Slovenia. The first question I wanted to ask is, how does one even like become an astronaut? To what requirements did you have to go through to like become one?
Oh, okay. So like going a little good segue from the last question, right? So when I've been on a couple of selection boards, it morphs, it changes over time also, right? Because Initially, we were looking for astronauts to go on the space shuttle and fly in space for like 10 to 15 days. Now we're asking people to go and fly on a capsule vehicle, which is a little bit different. So learning about that and then be up in space for 6 months or more. And in the future, we're asking people to get on a spacecraft which will go a lot farther away, which might have difference in communication also, and like not instant communication like we have right now. And maybe they won't have as much time and space, literally, in their capsule to do physical fitness. So it all changes a little bit, but basically we're looking for, now I think it is actually put in the book, a master's degree in some type of STEM background, or STEM field. We're looking people who have been part of a team, have been followers on the team, and had the opportunity to take leadership roles on that team too. Maybe it's a laboratory, maybe it's for me, it was like a helicopter squadron. So whatever your field is, how are you doing those things? And then, just people who are curious and interested in stuff, as well as can use their legs a little bit, maybe is a good idea. Not absolute requirement, but, a lot of the people that we get to interview are athletes, maybe in college, or, maybe run marathons, maybe scuba dive, a little bit of flying. There's always a little bit of that type of controls in most of our spacecraft. That might be morphing and changing over time as we get things that are a little bit more automated, but that helps with a lot of the thought processes for many years, traditional, about how we would control spacecraft, how we would control pieces, landers, for example, or robotic arms. It's all traditionally like flying background.
So the second question I would have, you said like to answer the previous question that you have to practice every day, but what counts as a day on a station?
So,
Thank you. I like questions like this.
Yeah. So we
What
try to
counts
keep
as a day,
We keep a normal day. We set our clocks, our computers to Greenwich Mean Time, and so we keep a normal human clock. We try not to deviate too much from that because I think that could be disruptive. We have 16 sunrises and sunsets, as you guys all probably know, in a day, but we don't use that as our gauge. We just use the clock on the computer.
Yeah, because that would be a lot of breakfast, right?
It'd be crazy. Yeah, that'd be a lot of food. Not complaining.
Okay, next.
Hi, I'm Frank. I work with computers.
Wow, that was very specific.
Anyway, I have a more subjective or maybe psychological question. So you spent quite a lot of time, maybe even one of the most amount of times in space in zero gravity. Do you ever miss it? And especially, have you ever dreamt that you're in space? And how does that feel when you wake up?
Yeah. I do miss it. There's so many wonderful things on Earth, so I'm very happy to be here. But the time up there, it's really priceless. It's really an amazing time. And so leaving every time has been hard for me because I know that I might not ever have that opportunity again. You just sort of like, last time. It's the last time I'll ever get to go. But also having that experience has allowed me to every now and then dream. I feels like dreams were a little bit more on a regular basis when you first come back, and then it sort of starts to like dissipate a little bit, which is a little sad. But I think it's still there. I think dreams are probably slightly part of your experiences, right? So it was interesting, and when I was in space, I also dreamt that I was here on Earth at times, and also dreamt that I was up there. When you're feeling like you have a lot to do, like there's a lot of, I have to do this, I have to do that, you're thinking about it and you go to bed. So I've dreamed about like working in space, of course, and also then more relaxed, dreaming about being back home, and the same goes for here. But it seems like it's sort of went away. And honestly, it's sort of funny, like when you come back from an experience like that, probably also like from a vacation, you're like,
which is not the same thing.
But a little bit. You're like, was that me? Did I really do that? It seems like really, wow. That was sort of a neat experience that I got to do. But sometimes it's hard to put yourself right back in it. So maybe that's why some of the dreams dissipate a little bit.
2 comments. First of all, now I understand that on the last mission, you just said, "Oh, I wish I could stay a little bit more," right?
Yeah,
And then,
that's what happened.
And then and then be careful what you wish for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And second of all, great question, Frank, but I'm very worried about the application that you are developing. Because you know, he works with computers, so it's a bit, and then dreams and
Dream.
yeah. Who knows what will come out of it? We'll see. Next.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm John. I'm an undergraduate student of physics here in Ljubljana, and so if I'm not mistaken, you've flown to the ISS or back in 4 different vehicles, so the Space Shuttle, the Soyuz, the Starliner, and the Crew Dragon. My question is, which one was your favorite in terms of, maybe in terms of comfort, in terms of flight duration, just
Which one is the
picking
fastest?
one?
Well, it's funny. We've had the
Great.
opportunity to have this conversation, and it is with my whole crew, and so we've contrasted and compared a little bit. So I'm going to give you that answer first, and then I'll tell you my opinion. But like our crew, as we were talking first from like chronologically. So the space shuttle is like a pickup truck, you know, and it's bulky, you know, and it shakes, and it's just big, you know, and you're sitting on the top of it when when it starts, and it's just huge, right? And it takes everything with it. It's pretty awesome. It's a great payload bay, and it's exciting. It's not super duper maneuverable, but it's a really solid, great pickup truck. The Soyuz, I'm not sure the Russians would love us to say this, but it's like a dune buggy. You know, like it's bouncing around, it's wiggling around, things are, explosions are coming when you're coming back home and stuff. And so we're all like, it's like a little rattly, but it has a couple of modern, it has your iPhone stuck in there, like, so you could have good navigation. So it's a dune bug with an iPhone. And then the Starliner it's pretty much like a sports car, like an uncomfortable sports car. You know, like the seats in the sports car are not that, it's stiff. It's a stiff little vehicle, but the thrusters, when they work, are sized perfectly for the spacecraft. So you can maneuver it like amazing. Like the first day when we flew, it was great. We could just spin it around, do whatever we needed to do with it. It was great. So it's like a really maneuverable sports car. And then the Dragon, it's like sort of like a Tesla, I guess, but like a family sedan. Like you just sit in it and you just let it do everything. And the seats are comfortable, and then you can have conversations while it's flying. And it's sort of like a family sedan. The SpaceX people weren't so happy because they wanted a little more sexy vehicle, but they're like, it's just like a sedan. My favorite is probably the dune buggy. And maybe because I like old things or whatever, but like getting to know how to fly that little Soyuz spacecraft it's just super fun. It's like back to the basics, it's just everything basic about it. No big bells and whistles. It has some automation that they have melded into it, but it started off, I think this is one of the most wonderful and great things that we can pass on to the next generation. We started off manual, and then we added on automation. And so you can know that if something happens with the automation, you can always take over manually. You don't have to backwards engineer it, like we're doing it with automation, and now we're going to try to shove in manual control. That was a tricky thing with Starliner. It really hasn't materialized with Dragon. There's some manual, but it's not really a manual control spacecraft. Anyway, so I like the dune buggy.
Yeah, we've understood that Sunita Williams, don't put her in a minivan, because that's not her thing.
Not my thing.
Okay.
I'm Anna. I do bioinformatics research in a hospital in Paris, and I came across some research describing basically that if the body has an immune reaction to spaceflight, how does it feel like the effect on your body, just the flight part, not necessarily the being in lower gravity?
So interesting. I don't know all the data behind that because I've read 2 different opinions about this. Sometimes accelerated immune system, sometimes suppressed immune system. I get the suppressed, right? Because we're not around a lot of people up there, and so the environment is generally sterile. Obviously we're living there, so it's not a sterile environment, but generally when you think about the number of people that we interact with, it's not like that. And we're in quarantine.
It's not like here.
No, it's not like here. And you're in quarantine before you go. So I understand the suppressed part, but maybe I don't understand the hyper part of it. I'll say some of the things that we have seen is there has been people who have some skin rashes up in space all of a sudden, like, and we don't know exactly what that is from. Is it from an immune reaction, or is it from the clothes we're wearing? We've tried different types of clothes, primarily just straight up cotton clothes is what we have. So that might be a manifestation of an autoimmune issue. I'm not really sure. But nobody has gotten really sick up in space ever. I think a cold was brought up to space at one point in time, and people got a cold, but then they were okay, right?
Wow, that's a bummer, really.
Yeah.
To get a cold in
That's
space.
it, yeah.
But just to continue a little bit with what Lara has asked, what's the feeling in your body when you're flying? You were used to flying helicopters and jets and so on, but how do you perceive your body, in those conditions?
Specifically flying around, are you talking about? Or
Flying in space.
Flying?
Yeah.
I think this initial sensation is pretty amazing. Like, oh my God, like I'm levitating, right? And everything is levitating and it's all floating around and it's pretty neat. I think the next phase that maybe you go through is like, for me, is like, okay, this is annoying. It's hard to control things. I'm losing things. And then I think the third phase of it is more like, this is just natural. Okay. You automatically know, like our bodies, our brains are so adaptable, you automatically easily can see something just like floating slowly by your head. You know it's there, you can just easily grab it. Your sense of distance and 3D perception of where
But you don't feel your internal organ differently, like your stomach. You don't feel it, no?
No. I think the only thing on that part is initially, again, it goes in phases. Initially, you're not really hungry. I think maybe because of, anyway, space adaptation sickness with your inner ear and your balance and your nausea, you're like, ugh, I don't want to eat. But then it's like, I'm not really hungry. Potentially sensors in your body that normally work with the gravity that, hey, I should eat now. You're not for a little bit, for me. And then eventually you're like, okay, now I'm hungry. You know, I've worked out, I've been here for a little while, I'm hungry. And so that sort of fades away too. And so I think over time, you're just adapt, which is truly an amazing thing that all of us human beings have. And I think that's one of the reasons we actually want people, one, who are healthy so we don't have to bring them back because we don't have all the resources up there to help people with big medical problems. But two, you can adapt if you're healthy pretty easily.
Right.
Hi, I'm Dylan. I'm an aerospace engineering graduate, and I was wondering what was the selection procedure like? So essentially, once you've decided to apply, what kind of tests you've been put through? And related to that, once you've been selected, have you ever had doubts or, let's say, questioned whether or not you've made the right choice?
Oh, absolutely. On the second one, all the time. I think it's that one because it's a long, like we've selected a lot of people, I would say slightly regrettably at the top of their fields, because people are doing amazing things and we're taking them away from their scientific fields and putting them into a very generic, at least for a time being, process of learning how to be an astronaut, right? So you're going through how all spacecraft work, how all the space agencies work, what we're doing for putting things together. And then as a scientist, you might feel like the science we're doing is a little non-rewarding because you are the tech, you are the eyes and ears and doing the experiment, but you're not coming up with it. You're not writing the paper for it. And so from that perspective, it could be a little, I think for folks, disappointing. And equally on the military side, we've picked people who are at the top of their field in the military, and they might have gone on to be, you know, an admiral or a general or something like that, and we've sort of put the kibosh on that, and this is what you're doing. We're all being astronauts. And so there has been a lot of people have had, and I'm not alone if I said that I have some regrets, absolutely, as you're waiting for the process to happen. But I think that changes as soon as you go to space. And everybody is much, much happier after, you know, a space flight. Like, okay, yes, it was worth it, even though it was like 10 years of my life. Yes, it was worth it. So the selection process, we have an application process, which you probably know first, right? You type up the application, you send it in. Excuse me. And then we have different fields of that we select from: pilots, of course, and engineers. Pilots, engineers, scientists, medical people. And we look at all those applications. Actually, everyone in the astronaut office from the US side does this. I'm not exactly sure how the European side does it, but we look at all the people who are pilots, for example, like in my group, look at all the pilots. And we rack and stack everybody. We make phone calls to their people where they work with, because it's always nice to know how people treat one another, because you're going to be in a can with other people, so you need to treat people nicely, right? So it's nice to know how everybody treats people and get all that data. And then we take about 120 people and we bring them in for physical interviews. And that's a pretty short process. From there, we weed it out to about 40 people. It's physical, it's an interview and then some medical stuff. And then the second interview is more of problem solving with your team building and team problem solving, as well as more medical tests and another interview. So it's a little intense. And everything is being watched. You know, it's not like in a bad way, but it's just sort of like the thing that I've always told people when they said, you know, what advice do you have for somebody coming in? I'm like, you be you. You can't fake it. You have to just be you and how you are. But I think a thing that people take away from that is like, wow, what an incredible, a neat experience. I did when I interviewed, I was like, wow, I will know if I have any medical problems, because they really look pretty thoroughly at you. And you get to meet people from other fields. I've really felt I was like the most unqualified in my group of people, because you meet all these scientists and engineers that I was talking about, like, wow, you've done that. Like, oh my God, like some amazing, amazing people. And it's also really inspiring, because you know that the world has a lot of really great minds out there doing really great things.
As I see, we have a couple of aspiring astronauts here among us.
I hope so.
I hope you heard that part, that you have to be really nice to your co-workers, because you never know when the phone call from NASA comes, and then it's very important if they say nice things about you. Yeah.
Andrei Pershel, Professor of Astrophysics, Villanova.
Oh, wow.
And I have an astrophysics question.
No.
Unless you want one. I'm also a dive master. Scuba diving.
Nice.
And I want to know, how close was I when I'm scuba diving to being in space?
Pretty close.
Is it similar enough?
Don't you think?
I wouldn't know. I know, just wondering.
I mean, if you make yourself neutrally buoyant.
Floating there. Yeah, I think it's pretty awesome. It's really close. We use the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, right, as our simulator for spacewalks. It's a big, huge pool, if you're not familiar. 102 by 202 feet and 40 feet deep. Sorry for the English units. But it's pretty deep, and we are able to put most of the space station in there and then practice all the spacewalking on the outside. The suit, of course, is not neutrally buoyant by itself. So we have divers in the pool who put weights on us and make us like neutrally buoyant as best as they can for the depth of the water column. Scuba diving is pretty awesome. It's pretty darn close, because you're doing the same type of thing. You're in an apparatus and you're breathing the air. You're trusting the equipment. You're checking the equipment. You're trusting the equipment. It's pretty more closer, I would say, to a spacewalk. Yeah. Wow. And I'll just say, it was funny. We had a habitat where we lived off of the Atlantic coast. It used to be run by, I think, University of North Carolina. And they do like coral research and other type of research there, where you can stay in a module underwater. And we were scuba diving out of that. Like, we would sleep in there, and then obviously it's air in there, and then you would go out and then, dive around. And I've said this before too, like, we would come back from scuba diving like 5 minutes early to just like lay on the sand and watch like the life, just make ourselves that heavy. And it was amazing. My friend Dan Tanny and I would be underwater, and we come back and we're like, there's more aliens down here than we'd ever see in space.
Go.
Hi, I'm Kisha. I'm doing my PhD in theoretical particle physics.
Wait, don't ask that question.
So, of course, when you're in space, you do normal stuff a lot differently. Did you learn any life hacks that you then translated on your life back on Earth, like some, I don't know, washing or I don't know, some different type of techniques that also came in handy once you returned? And also, like, did you accidentally sometimes do it on Earth, like drop something on the
Once. Did that once, just once. Your brain kicks in pretty quick. It's like, I could do this with a water bottle, but I better not do it with a very expensive camera, or a computer. So anything that I learned from space I brought back. I had a hard time stopping swallowing my toothpaste when I came back, because it's months of doing that, because I didn't like spitting it in a paper towel. I was like, it's like mouthwash, I'll just swallow it. And I was like, don't swallow the toothpaste. That's not a good habit to bring back. But a better habit to bring back is, I was talking about everything floating around, right? And it gets annoying, and you can lose things. And it left an impression on me. Like, I'm generally, my mom and my sister probably will not vouch for me here, but generally, I'm generally organized, and I know where my stuff is, and very conscientious of trying to remember to put it in the same place every single time so I don't lose it. Because space is like that. It wears on you. Like, you could spend a whole day looking for your spoon, or or a piece of a camera, or something that you really need for a science experiment. If you just dropped it, it's like so frustrating, and that a bunch of people are waiting on you, and you're trying to find something. It's sort of terrible. And also, because we work on the space station with a lot of other people, and some of these experiments only come up every 6 months or something like that, documenting where you put stuff is also really important. We have these lost and found, or most wanted posters in the space station, of things that people need that we weren't able to either do a science experiment, we weren't either able to take a picture because of it. So we have these wanted posters up everywhere, because the last time the system, because we have an inventory management system, said it was someplace, it's not there anymore. We've actually brought that back as one of the biggest, not necessarily complaints, but an area of improvement, I guess how you'd put it. We need to do some, I think this goes for everybody. There's experts in a lot of these types of basic living things. We should checkpoint. How does Amazon do it without losing something? We generally all get our right packages, right? So how come we can't do that in space? So I think it's a time where I was mentioning, technology is really bursting, and people are using these technologies in different applications, and we could borrow this information from each other and use it, right? So maybe I need to go to Amazon for school first, and then I won't lose my car keys.
Maybe you should take those ladies that organize your wardrobe on Instagram. Maybe you can take them up there. Here.
Hello, American Slovenian Education Foundation. I'd like to thank you for gathering us here together. So for your essentially science ambassadorship as well, it goes up to space and back. Because of your presence here today, actually the Education Foundation was able to bring some fantastic professors of aerospace engineering and astrophysics, so to be here with us. I hope you get the chance to speak with them, as well as the students who benefit from their mentorship. That's a comment and thanks. But the question would be, I guess most of the world heard about you over the last few years when you were for some time in the space station, and it's a genuine question of interest. What's it like being there, knowing that probably this solution will be found, but it seems to have been prolonged for longer than it was anticipated? So how does your mind work in that case, and how do you rely on people who are there to help you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Also, I think there's a little extra part of that. It's obviously something didn't go wrong, and these are the same people that are fixing my spacecraft, right? Or potentially making the decisions to bring me back home. I think that's a natural corollary of all of that, right? We know a lot of these, obviously most of the people who are building and working on or making decisions on the top or higher level, the people who are making the final decisions. And so it's a matter of trust, right, for one thing. So over the summer, it was, once we've got docked to the space station, that was great. The summer went on, and things were slowly, coming to light, like what tests were being done and what results were coming out of that. And that was frustrating. That was pretty frustrating because it was, one, taking a long time, and two, it didn't seem complete. You know, that like there was more, it felt like there's more questions that were coming up. I also put that in context, like, wait, you know, you're not there. There's many more conversations that are going on that I'm not involved with, my colleague wasn't involved with. I have to trust that everybody there is doing the right thing and asking the right questions. Then when it came to the end, and just so in that matter, just let it happen, right? You have to have patience, right? Just let it all happen. And in the meantime, you know, ask the other people who are on the space station, could I help you clean the toilet? What can I do? How can I help you? Can I learn this experiment? You know, fill your time productively with the other things that are going on all around you. So I think that was one thing that we both did while we were waiting. Then the decision, as things were getting closer to the end of the summer, it was becoming a little bit clear. Also being in the space program for a long time, knowing that there's not like a stable of spacecraft ready to go. They get produced ready every 6 months. And we hear about it because our friends are flying on them. And so we're all part of the information flow when we're on the ground of like, this spacecraft or this rocket has, you know, a helium problem, or this one has a, you know, like some type of pyro problem, or this one has this going on. So every time you fly a spacecraft, it goes through a refurbishment process, and there's things that we learn and we get better and we fix and da-da-da. So knowing all that, we all knew there wasn't going to be another one that was just going to come up and get us and bring us back home. So by the time the decision was made, it became clear we didn't have all the answers. The safest thing to do is wait for the next one. And part of that is also, it's a big team. You know, we talked about some things that we're looking for and with astronauts, right? 2 people came off of that spacecraft that brought us home, that were supposed to come up and be there for 6 months. One was a rookie, one had flown before. So like this person who's the rookie, right? Her whole life, this is what she was waiting to do. And like, you're not flying, you know, you're off. You know, that's the teamwork part. We're here for a bigger purpose. And just putting that in perspective, I think makes everything okay.
I'm Urada Vlade, a professor of physics at the University of Cincinnati. So if you could talk a bit more about the future of the human space exploration, like what you would personally like to see, or what's realistic, if there's a disconnect between.
Yeah, sure. I mean, thank you. This commercialization of spaceflight is part of the bigger picture of what we are a part of right here. And so the bigger picture that our goals are with the Artemis program, of course, is going back to the moon. Going back to the moon a little bit more difficult, going to the South Pole versus the equator. If we want to do it quickly, that's a hard solution. That's a hard goal to have, but that's what we're planning on doing. So for now, I think you all know Artemis 2 is launching this spring sometime, probably March, April more likely. We'll see. There's a lot of discussions that are going on right now about it with both the spacecraft and the rocket, but it's pretty good, right? An Orion spacecraft, not with people, flew already on an SLS rocket, so it will go around the moon, it won't land on the moon. And then landers on the moon, that's a different story, right? So in the meantime, we've contracted with SpaceX for Starship. We're getting there. They're getting there slowly but surely. Their idea is to land directly on the moon, right? Go from here to there. There's some issues with that as well. Some of their systems are more based on Mars, as far as I know, and so there's some different difficulties. Gateway is part of the issue, right? Gateway, you know, is a space station in the vicinity of the moon to allow a spacecraft to go from Gateway down to the surface of the moon. Mm-hmm. The architecture is tough. It's not ideal, but it's trying to incorporate a lot of different ideas as well as partners. You know, we talked about the International Space Station in the beginning, into it, and I think we're just going to have to see where we go. There's a forcing function to get to the moon. This is why I mentioned that the poles are hard. If the idea is we just get to the moon, then we can go to the equator. We can get there a little bit easier. So that might be an interim solution, is get back to in the areas where we landed before. if there's a race, if that's what we want to do. But the ideal thing would be go to the poles. Obviously, interesting lighting conditions, obviously potential water, and ability to build a station there. So,
Wow.
it's going to be a big endeavor. What do you think? Do you think the same?
The expert.
I'm not going to say I'm the expert. I'm just hearing about it. It's tough. It's not
Human
not
being
easy.
on Mars?
That it's going to happen eventually. I'll just say, I have faith. Maybe I'm just an optimist, but when I first came to the astronaut office, they showed us how we were going to put the space station together. We're going to put this piece up, put that piece up, move it around, do this, do that, like Mr. Potato Head, like these. I was like, there's no way we're going to do this. We have all these partners. We don't even like each other. Someone's going to say no in the meantime, or someone's going to quit. And we did it. And even through having a space shuttle mishap in the middle of it all, not having different geopolitical situations, we all did it. So if we really want to do this, we can do it. It's just going to be tough. I mean, tankers, you've heard of that too, right? There's supposed to be tankers that are filling up the starships as they get ready to land to the moon. So that architecture is very busy. We'll all be employed, I'll put it that way, to get this done.
Well, that's a very, very nice way to wrap it up. We've been talking for more than an hour already. I know there are some further questions, but we don't want to tire you, and we want to have some time to enjoy maybe a little bit more freely our time together. I really, really would like to thank Rok and Kaya and everybody else at the ASEF Association, because they had a really, really big role in helping us putting this visit together. So thanks, guys, doing a great job. Of course, thank you for coming, really. Many of you really came a long, long way, so we're very, very thankful. You know that Sunita's visit was supposed to be official and full of, with a full calendar of appointments, and because of the shutdown, that's something that we absolutely have no possibility of helping. Sunita came on a private visit in Slovenia, and when we told her that you guys were already coming and have her plane tickets, she really, really, really made a huge step for all of us, and she's also taking a risk in a way, but she really, with an open heart and very kindly, said, yes, of course I will come. So it's really, really mighty big of you, and thank you. Thank you.
Honestly, just really happy to be here with everybody, especially of course, my mother, my sister, my cousin, and her husband back in the back there, who all made the trip to see, Slovenia, and to see where, our family all came from. What a great country. I've mentioned it already that, out of this small little country, there's, 4 astronauts who have Slovenian descent. So, we're doing something right here. I think the head and the legs are a good combination in this country. Just keep it up, and the sky's not even the limit. Whatever you guys dream of, you can make it happen. It's pretty impressive. Love being here. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.